Hey soccer fans, welcome back to the Feed the Fire podcast. I'm your host Nick. First of all, let me apologize to you watching on YouTube. It's Saturday morning. I rolled right out of bed in the mood to record an episode, so you'll have to pardon my unkempt appearance, but I wanted to get something out before the day got away from me. We're going to talk about a Chicago Fire coaching change. We're going to talk about the USMNT's performance against Jamaica in the Nations League, and then we're going to recap the individual awards that were handed out in Major League Soccer. So quick hits for you, but getting you caught up with all things Chicago Fire, MLS, and USMNT. And if you want to keep the conversation going after the episode, you can email me, glasshouseSoccer@gmail.com, or find me on social media at GlassHouseSoccer. And is it me or is everyone making the jump over to Blue Sky? We've seen a lot of my fellow content creator, MLS independent content creators losing a bunch of followers on Twitter because people are jumping over to Blue Sky. So, I don't know, let me know if you're on the Blue Sky site and if you think that it'd be worth Feed the Fire jumping over there as well. All right, let's get into our Chicago Fire talk. As I mentioned, there was a coaching change, but it's at the Chicago Fire 2 level. On Tuesday, November 12th, the Chicago Fire announced that the club has parted ways with head coach Ludovic Taillandier. I never figured out how to pronounce his last name. I believe it's French. The general manager for Fire 2, Alex Bowler, said, "As we begin to focus on next season and our long-term objectives, we felt it was the right time to make a change in leadership. I'd like to thank Ludo for all his hard work and contributions to the club, not only as the first head coach of Fire 2, but throughout his entire 5-year tenure with the organization. He's a true professional, and I wish him nothing but the best for the future." So a very standard kind of farewell from the GM of Chicago Fire 2. Now, Taillandier led the MLS Next Pro side of the Chicago Fire since their inaugural season in 2002. He had about a 500 record, going 28, 27, 25, and 12. Those 12, I believe, are the shootout wins. As we know, there's no draws. They go right into a shootout in MLS Next Pro. And that was over 3 seasons. He led the team to the playoffs in 2023 and most recently in 2024. And they actually ended up winning a playoff series this year, or playoff game this year. Prior to coaching Chicago Fire 2, Taillandier was the head coach of the U19 Fire Academy, who won the 2021 MLS Next Cup. And he originally joined the Fire in 2019 after 18 years of experience as a head coach and technical director coming over from France. So, yes, this is a big loss for the Chicago Fire as an organization. You had someone who is extremely experienced, who has had great success with academy, youth, second team programs. But I think this is just a product of the restructuring and rebuilding of the sporting department. We know Greg Berhalter comes in as the director of sport. We know that Greg Boughton comes in as the sporting director, reporting up to Berhalter. And as a result, they're trying to have a streamlined approach throughout the organization, a uniform approach throughout the organization of how they want to play, what kind of talent they're identifying and promoting, and all sorts of other phases in this club. It's got to be a uniform message, top to bottom, both from culturally, business-wise, and style of play and talent development. So as a result of them revamping this and trying to implement that individual, call it the Chicago Fire way, if you want to think of it that in that sense, Taillandier is out as the CF2 coach. I'm sure someone with that success, and I'm sure someone with that resume is going to find a job rather quickly around Major League Soccer or around soccer in the United States. So wishing him all the best. But I think this is going to be a really good thing because it's the uniformity, like I said. It's having a direct pipeline and understanding the style of play from the academy system to the second team to the pro team. That was one of the criticisms of the Chicago Fire this season, is why aren't they working in more academy players? Why aren't we evaluating the talent? We know it's a lost season, and yet the coaching staff decided to continue to play their starters who are struggling. And guess what? At the end of the season, they were able to say, hey, Justin Reynolds, the guy can hang in MLS, whether he's going to end up starting a majority of games or coming off the bench or being a depth piece when it comes to possibly Open Cup or Leagues Cup, things of that kind of nature. He can hang in MLS. Now, can we get David Pareba, MLS Next Pro Golden Boot winner and MVP? Can he integrate into the first team? We saw Amari Glasgow have some moments that showed he looked like he might be able to hang in MLS. He's having a wonderful time playing for the Guyana national team. I think he's already got like 19 goals, and he's not yet 21, just turned 21. 19 international goals in kind of Caribbean and Concacaf competitions. So that's someone who should be able to try to be integrated into the first team. And if he and Pareba and Conix and some of the other names we've seen working with the first team over the course of the 2024 season fit the style and the mentality and the culture that Berhalter and Boughton are wanting to build, then we should see them start to get integrated throughout the course, hopefully sooner rather than later in 2025. Okay, let's move on now to the other big game that took place this week. The United States took on Jamaica in the Nations League quarterfinals, and they ended up getting a 1-0 victory, which, you know what? It's Concacaf. It was an away game in Concacaf. You take it. Yes, fans want to see the United States beating teams 4-5-0 like this, especially a lesser team like Jamaica. And I say lesser team, but if you really want to dive into it, Jamaica has played the United States fairly competitively over the last several matchups. So I say lesser team just because of the where the players of the United States are playing around the world versus those of Jamaica. Though there are Jamaican players who are playing in some top leagues over in England, and the criticism of Jamaica coming into it was they can't put it all together. They don't have a coach or an organization or a federation that can bring Jamaica together and have this identity. And you saw it was pretty much just sit compact and try to counterattack and use their speed and a little physicality, and then of course knock around Pulisic to make sure that he doesn't get anything going for the United States, which is what you're going to see in CONCACAF. So first of all, welcome to CONCACAF, Mauricio Pochettino. You know, get used to that. There were definitely a few things that I think were a little bit of a soccer culture shock for him. First of all, just the terrible nature of the pitch. There are times I'm watching this game and I'm like, please don't pass it back to Matt Turner. Don't play a ball back to him because it's going to take some weird hop off some divot in the turf and like trickle in for a terrible own goal. Or it's going to get away from him and Jamaica's going to have an easy opportunity to try to score. Like that worried me. Also, I just was glad no one got hurt when their cleat got stuck in the terrible turf over there. But we know pitches are bad in CONCACAF. Also, the tempers flared up real quickly when Jamaica realized they weren't generating the offense that they wanted or getting those clear looks on the counterattacks. They started getting physical. It started getting chippy. They started arguing. They started getting in the face of the U.S. players. And I'm glad the U.S. players weren't backing down from it. And I'm glad there was only, I think, one yellow card given for an incident like that. But it went to both teams. So in that instance, I'll say the refereeing was okay. But we also saw how inconsistent the officiating was with, like I said, Pulisic getting knocked down, shoulder in the back, a lot of fouls committed by the Jamaican players, I believe, and we'll check the stats in a second. But there was a yellow card given to an American player for a particular foul, and then a few minutes later, Jamaican player did exactly the same thing. It was disrupting a counterattack when they literally pulled Pulisic's arm down. And I think what the referee thought was, you know, Pulisic went down too easy to draw the foul. But regardless of the fact, it was a foul breaking up a counterattack, and the guy pulled his arm. That should have been a yellow card. Should have been a fairly easy call for this referee to make, and he did not make it. It was just a regular foul awarded. So these are all your typical CONCACAF things that you're going to see, especially playing away to a quote-unquote lesser opponent in CONCACAF that the United States is going to have to deal with, that Pochettino is going to have to deal with as well. But the one thing that stood out is the United States needed a quick start. They needed to get on the scoreboard early in order to put pressure on Jamaica, and this is true for all CONCACAF opponents that they play against, with the exception of maybe Canada, Mexico, maybe to a certain extent Costa Rica, but I think they're going to start to fall into the 10 men behind the ball and counterattack mode against the United States. They got the quick goal, forcing Jamaica to have to take some opportunities, which allowed then the United States to have some counterattacking opportunities. And yeah, it was kind of a very up and down game for moments as a result of that. But they got the early goal, Christian Pulisic to Ricardo Pepi in the 5th minute. Great finish by Pepi. Gets it past Andre Blake, kisses the far post, and banks it in. So real great start for them. Pepi had a pretty good match, something that a lot of fans are excited about, to see the striker scoring, not just against the minnows, quote unquote, but one of the better opponents that the United States will see in Concacaf in Jamaica. So let's take a look at the starting lineup for the United States. Starting in the back, Matt Turner was in goal, had a pretty good game, had a huge penalty save. I do think that penalty was a little bit questionable. However, it was a foul in the box, and so he gave him a penalty. However, the attacker in that one was going away from the goal, had taken such a heavy touch, the ball was going out of bounds, and he kind of leaned into the contact a little bit. And yes, there was contact. It probably anywhere else on the pitch, it would have been a foul. But in a game like this, for the referee to award such a negligible little foul for a PK, and to award Jamaica for kind of the gamesmanship that they were doing throughout the course of this match, I don't think it was the right call by the referee. But in his mind, there was contact. He's going to award a penalty. So I can't argue too much, because these things are going to happen in CONCACAF. Seems like to every other team except the U.S. But anyway, Matt Turner in goal. Again, big save, stopping that penalty. The one thing, though, that did worry me is he started to celebrate with his defenders. He knocked the ball out for a Jamaican corner kick, and they started to celebrate, and all of a sudden they're taking a quick corner, quick, go out and defend. And fortunately, they were able to get their shape set before Jamaica could do anything off that corner kick. All right, the back line, Anthony Robinson on the left, Tim Ream and Mark McKenzie, your center backs, and Joe Scally on the right. So the formation was a 4-2-3-1 here. Pretty good formation to try and keep possession and break down the Jamaican defense. So we'll see. Pochettino, I think, is still in that evaluating his talent and what he's got. I don't think Ream and McKenzie are going to be our starting center backs when it comes to World Cup, the actual World Cup. I mean, that's another year and a half, 2 years away, and I don't think Tim Ream's got the legs for it. But he's a guy that Pochettino can count on to help maintain the shape, someone who knows this group of players, someone who knows the opponents and CONCACAF, and someone who's competent and not going to make those mistakes that we may see a younger player make, or someone who's coming into camp for the first time or unfamiliar with kind of this style of play and the other player. So he's got a lot of evaluating to do. We'll see where he starts to make changes, maybe in the second leg against Jamaica at home. But that's your back line. I think Robinson will be there as long as he wants it. He is probably the best defender for the United States, or at least the best outside back for the United States, and has a really good relationship with Christian Pulisic on the pitch, it seems. Your defending midfielders, Tanner Tessman and Johnny Cardoso, both guys who played solid games. I don't think there was any really flashy moments, but it was their job to be the outlet for the defense and then transition the ball into the attack, and for the most part they did that, and the U.S. did have some counterattacking opportunities. The three attacking midfielders, Pulisic on the left wing, Musa on the right wing, and McKennie in the center. McKennie and Robinson did pick up yellow cards in this match. Not shocked that occurred. But yeah, McKennie, was there. I don't know how effective he was. I think he's trying to find his way and how Pochettino wants to play. Obviously, we know his talent. Obviously, we want to see him get forward and get involved in the attack. But he is very good in playing a little bit more defensively, but then also being that late arriving attacking option, kind of that third option in the box if Pulisic's looking to cross it in, if Robinson's pushing up the pitch, or Scally's pushing up the pitch to try and find. Maybe you can't find your first option. Maybe your striker is covered by two center backs. Maybe Pulisic is making a run to the far post. If McKennie can be that consistent third option, getting into the box, we've seen him do it at Juve, especially rising up and jumping and getting those headers down for goal-scoring opportunities, I think that would fit him really well. And then, of course, up front, Ricardo Pepi with the goal. Now, the subs for the United States Austin Trusty, Alejandro Zendejas, Gianluca Busio, Malik Tillman, and Brandon Vasquez. Those were all your subs that did get into the game. I would like to see Brandon Vasquez get more opportunities, but kind of later in the game, you're kind of holding on to that 1-0 lead. I understand that he wasn't getting the ball as much as we would like to see, but he is always a dangerous threat, and I hope he continues to be in good form for the United States. I would love to see a large, physical, attacking player like Brandon Vasquez up top for the U.S. who can do it in the air and on the ground for them. Hopefully he stays in good form and he can build a relationship with Pochettino and kind of elevate his game even more. We saw how much he developed in MLS. We saw him have a good start at Monterrey just this past season when he transferred to Liga MX. However, his form's kind of fallen off and he's kind of fallen out of favor with the coaching staff there a little bit, and hopefully he can recover and maybe use this international window as a springboard for that. The unused subs, defenders Chris Richards, Miles Robinson. I expect them then to get significant time in the home leg against Jamaica. And Cade Cowell, it'd be nice to see him get a run out in this home game as well to see if he can develop into the man behind Pulisic on the depth chart. And then Diego Cochin as well, a defender there. Backup goalies Patrick Schulte, Zach Steffen, and no, Diego Cochin. That was the backup, the fourth goalkeeper there. So that is your roster for the United States against Jamaica, and again, a 1-0 victory. Looking at the statistics of this match, the U.S. only had 6 shots, 3 of them on target, and obviously 1 of them in the net. So not a lot of offensive generation, shot creating opportunities by the United States, which has always plagued them. And now that Pochettino has kind of cut his teeth a little bit on CONCACAF competition, maybe that's something that he can improve upon. Hopefully, that's just a matter of playing away in Jamaica, and when we see them come back to City Park in St. Louis on Monday the 18th for the second leg of this one, he ends up improving these numbers. But they did have 60% possession, 498 total passes with an 83% passing accuracy. 12 fouls committed by the U.S. to Jamaica's 13. So it was a back and forth game from the fouls. 3 yellow cards and a red to Jamaica. Mason Holgate gets the red card for Jamaica in the 86th minute. The U.S. only 2 yellow cards, fortunately. And no offsides by the U.S. That kind of surprised me when you want to play, when you're getting some counterattacking opportunities. No offsides were called against the U.S., but 3 against Jamaica. And I'm glad to see that those 3 were called, but that's always concerning to me because I don't know how much VAR comes into play here. Because there was a potential handball against Tim Ream that they didn't check. I don't think it definitely didn't go to VAR. And I know you saw a lot of the Jamaican fans making the VAR symbol, saying, mouthing VAR, VAR. But I don't know how much that's used in Nations League or if it's used to the effect that we see it in other leagues around the world. Also, the U.S. only was awarded 1 corner kick, so either they were wanting to play more direct up the middle, or they weren't getting the ball into those winged areas where we have seen Pulisic and Tim Weah be very effective. Weah not on the roster right now. So Musa, though, is a little bit more of a player who likes to have possession, have the ball at his feet, do a lot of link-up play. I don't see him making those long runs down the pitch into the corner that we've seen from Tim Weah. So maybe that kind of took away some of the opportunities to win corner kicks there. But I fully expect a USA victory in their second leg against Jamaica. They've got the away goal, so that will help them advance even on on a 1-1 draw. Or would they go to PKs? I'm not going to do math in my head right now. You guys can figure it out. I'm sure they'll talk about it all over the broadcast. But I hope it doesn't have to come to the away goal rule. The United States should have a comfortable victory. I hope. Or they're going to come against the Jamaica team who's got to just throw caution to the wind and play for it if they want to try to advance in this Nations League tournament. They've got to make up a couple of goals here. So you're going to see the Jamaicans use their speed and physicality, and hopefully the United States are ready for it. I don't know if they're going to keep that same 4-2-3-1 formation, or if we're going to see a little difference in formation because we're going to see a few different players get in. Like if we see Chris Richards and Miles Robinson as their starting center backs, does that mean we keep Anthony Robinson and Joe Scally as those outside backs and keep running it? Do we see a more compact midfield, a more possession-oriented midfield, especially with Jamaica not wanting to sit back and give the United States possession because they're chasing goals? Or is Jamaica going to play the exact same way and then just see if they can get the U.S. on a couple counterattack opportunities? And as I mentioned, Mason Holgate, who is starting as a center back in this Jamaican formation, who has the ability to get forward, has the red card, so he'll be out for that next game. Damian Lowe and Leon Bailey also are on yellow cards, but they can't worry about that. They're going to have to just move forward. And those are some of the names, too, that Jamaica had. We know Andre Blake is the goalkeeper. We know Mason Holgate. I remember him from his time at Everton. Damian Lowe obviously had a career overseas. Leon Bailey, Damari Gray, and we also saw Tavon Gray come in, NYCFC's player there. So there is talent on this team. I think the United States is better individually on paper as a team and as a result, but it's going to not be an easy task if Jamaica wants to throw everything going forward. So we'll see that game on Monday and have more commentary after that. Now let's move into some MLS individual awards so we can catch everyone up with that. MLS Soccer, MLSsoccer.com has the full list, and you can read all of the bios and stories behind all these winners. But to begin, Drew Fisher was named MLS Referee of the Year, and if you can't put a face to the name, as soon as you see him, you'll know who he is. Kyle Atkins was named MLS Assistant Referee of the Year. Luca Orejano won the 2024 Goal of the Year, if you remember his strike from way beyond midfield. I forget who that was against. Then FC Dallas's keeper Martin Paz has won Save of the Year for the double save against the Galaxy back in May. Most recently, the award was given out for Defender of the Year. Steven Moreira was named it, of the Columbus Crew. What is really interesting about this is if you look at the breakdown of who voted for him, the vote is based on players, media, and clubs. And your three finalists were Steven Moreira, Jordi Alba, and Jackson Reagan, Seattle, and Jordi Alba, Miami, of course. The players voted 14% for Moreira and 22% for Jordi Alba, but the media voted 32% for Steven Moreira, only 5.5% for Jordi Alba, 4% for Jackson Reagan. So the media vote was completely divided, other than the 1/3 of them voting for Steven Moreira. So that is a huge voting block that win for him. And then as far as the clubs, meaning coaches, technical staff, and other people involved in the organization, Moreira got about 9.5%, with Jordi Alba and Jackson Reagan getting almost 19% each. So it was the media vote that carried Steven Moreira to his Defender of the Year title. We've already mentioned Diego Luna ended up with the Young Player of the Year award, and again, competing against Diego Gomez, another Miami player, he got 52.5% of the media vote there, whereas Diego Gomez only got about 23% of the media vote. Now, Diego Gomez got 53% of the club's vote, but Diego Luna had enough in the other voting blocks to carry him. We also see Lewis Morgan being named the 2024 Comeback Player of the Year, playing for Red Bulls. He had hip surgery last September, was given, they said, about an 80% chance to return and a 20% chance to get to peak performance. But he ended up leading Red Bulls with goals, with 13 on the season, second on the team in assists with 7 in the 29 matches that he appeared, and helped the Red Bulls qualify for a 15th consecutive playoff appearance. The other Comeback Player of the Year finalists, Robin Ludd of Minnesota and Maxi Morales of NYCFC there. So a good win for Lewis Morgan, a nice individual trophy for the Red Bulls. And also Newcomer of the Year, LA Galaxy's Gabriel Peck. And I don't think this one, well, this one was a little close just because of Luis Suarez's name and what he did with Miami. Luca Orejano of Cincinnati was the third place Newcomer of the Year voter here. But yeah, Peck won the media vote, he won the player vote, and won the club vote, although it once you average out the percentages, he had a 37.5% of the total vote, and Luis Suarez had 27.6% of the total vote as well. So newcomer of the year, this is interesting. So Gabriel Peck wins newcomer of the year with the Galaxy. The last several newcomers of the year, Yorgos Yakumakis and Thiago Almada of Atlanta, Chicho Arango when he was a newcomer with LAFC, Lucas Zelarayan of the Crew, Carlos Hill, the Revolution, Zlatan, Galaxy, Miguel Almiron, Nico Ladero, Sebastian Jovinko. These are all guys who have gone on to win trophies here in MLS. So that bodes well for the LA Galaxy. Now, as we close out the show, this was just a quick one today, about 26 minutes. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, for listening. Please like, subscribe, rate, review, share the show. Let's continue to grow this show and the discussion around the Chicago Fire in the off-season. I want to remind everyone that Feed the Fire is brought to you by Skira Icelandic Spring Water. Icelandic for clear, Skira water comes from a spring in a government-protected nature preserve in Iceland with naturally low mineral content. This isn't your average water. Clearly, pun intended, it's one of the best. And Skira Icelandic Spring Water is available at your local 7-Eleven. And with that, I will let you enjoy the rest of your weekends. Fire fans, MLS fans, USMNT, international soccer fans, have a happy soccer Saturday or a happy soccer day whenever you do listen. And let's go Fire. Let's go USA.